My dearest Tommy, I'm writing this on a scrap of paper I traded half my rice ration for. The guard isn't looking, and I have maybe 5 minutes before the work detail starts. My hands are shaking, not from fear, but from hunger. I haven't eaten a real meal in so long I've forgotten what it feels like to be full. But I need you to know something, son. Something I need to write down before another day passes in this place, because I don't know how many days I have left. Yesterday, I watched a man die over a cup of water, not fighting over it, not stealing it. He gave it away. And in that moment, in this hell where men have been reduced to animals, I saw something that reminded me why I'm still fighting to survive, why I'm fighting to come home to you. Let me tell you what happened. Tommy, I'm going to be honest with you in this letter in a way I never could face to face. Because if I make it home, when I make it home, I don't want to burden you with these memories. But right now, I need to tell someone. I need to tell you. This camp sits in a valley surrounded by jungle. Beautiful, if you can believe it. Green mountains, tropical birds, the kind of place that should be paradise. But paradise has a way of hiding hell inside it. We sleep in bamboo huts, 100 men crammed into spaces meant for 20. The roof leaks when it rains, which is every afternoon like clockwork. The mosquitoes are so thick at night you can hear them humming, a constant drone that never stops. Some of the boys, and they are boys, Tommy, younger than I was when I enlisted, they've stopped slapping at them. They just let the bugs feast. Malaria swept through last month, then dysentery, then something the medic called dengue fever, though we don't have medicine for any of it. We don't have medicine for anything. You remember how I used to be 185 pounds? How you'd climb on my back and I'd carry you around the yard pretending to be a horse? I'd guess I'm 120 now, maybe less. My ribs show through my skin like piano keys. When I catch my reflection in the washing water, I don't recognize the man staring back. The work is brutal. 12 hours in the sun building a railway through the jungle, hauling logs, breaking rocks, digging through clay that sticks to everything. The guards stand over us with rifles and bamboo canes. If you slow down, if you stumble, if you stop to catch your breath, they make you pay for it. 3 days ago, a man from Brooklyn named Eddie collapsed from heat stroke. They beat him unconscious, then dragged him back to camp and left him in the sun as a warning. He died that night. We buried him at dawn in a shallow grave with no marker, because we don't have wood for crosses anymore. We ran out months ago. I'm telling you this not to scare you, son. I'm telling you because I need you to understand where I am, what this place takes from us, but also what it can't take. Our day starts before sunrise. A guard bangs on a metal pan, and we stumble out of our huts into formation. Roll call takes an hour. They count us, recount us, sometimes make us stand there just because they can. Men pass out. The guards don't care. Breakfast is a tin cup of rice gruel. Watery, sometimes with bugs floating in it, but we drink every drop because it's all we get until evening. Some guys have gotten sick from it, dysentery that turns your insides to liquid, but you eat it anyway because the alternative is starvation. Then we march to the work site. It's 2 miles through jungle, and by the time we arrive, we're already exhausted. The heat is what gets you first. It's not like summer back home, Tommy. This is thick, suffocating heat that presses down on you like a wet blanket. By 10 in the morning, the sun is directly overhead, and there's no shade. We work in it anyway. I'm assigned to the timber detail. That means hauling logs from the jungle to the railway line. Some of these logs are 20 feet long and weigh more than 3 men combined. We carry them on our shoulders, 6 men per log, shuffling through mud while guards scream at us to move faster. Your shoulders bleed from the weight, the skin rubs raw, then opens up, and the sweat pours into the wounds. After a while, you stop feeling it. That's when you know you're in trouble. When your body stops sending pain signals because it's trying to conserve energy just to keep you alive. At midday, they give us 10 minutes to rest. We collapse in whatever shade we can find. Some men fall asleep immediately, others just stare at nothing. There's a guy named Jimmy who sits and traces patterns in the dirt with a stick, the same pattern over and over. I asked him once what he was drawing. He said it was his daughter's face. He'd forgotten what she looked like and was trying to remember. I understood. Because, Tommy, there are days I close my eyes and I can't quite picture your face. I remember the shape of it, round cheeks, that gap in your front teeth, your mother's eyes. But the details slip away like water through my fingers. It terrifies me more than anything else in this place. So at night, I practice. I close my eyes and I rebuild you piece by piece. The cowlick in your hair that never stays down no matter how much your mother combs it. The way you scrunch up your nose when you laugh. The sound of your voice calling Daddy when I'd come home from work. I hold on to those things like they're lifelines, because they are. You learn things about men in a place like this, Tommy. Things you'd never know in the regular world. There's a guy in our hut named Marcus. Big guy. Used to be a steelworker in Pittsburgh. Hands like sledgehammers. When he first got here, he was angry all the time. Picking fights, talking back to guards, getting himself beaten for it. I thought he'd be dead in a month. But something changed. One night, one of the younger boys, a kid named Peter, couldn't have been more than 19, started crying. Not quiet crying, but the kind of sobbing that shakes your whole body. He'd just gotten word through the camp grapevine that his hometown had been hit hard in a naval battle. He didn't know if his family was alive. We all heard it. In the old world, maybe guys would have told him to shut up, to man up, to stop being weak. But Marcus sat up in his bunk, climbed down, and sat next to Peter. He didn't say anything at first, just sat there. Then he started talking. Quiet so the guards wouldn't hear. He told Peter about his own son, about teaching him to fish, about the time they caught a catfish so big they could barely carry it home. He talked for an hour, maybe more, just stories. Gentle stories. The kind a father tells to help a child sleep. And Peter stopped crying. Marcus does that now. When someone breaks, and everyone breaks eventually, Marcus is there. He's become something like a father to half the camp. The angry steelworker who wanted to fight the world found something bigger to fight for, keeping the rest of us human. Then there's Doc. We call him Doc, even though he's not a real doctor. He was a veterinarian back in Oregon. But he's the closest thing we have. He works miracles with nothing. When supplies run out, he boils tree bark to make antiseptic. When men get infected wounds, he drains them with tools he's fashioned from scrap metal. When someone's dying and there's nothing left to do, he sits with them so they don't die alone. I asked Doc once why he does it. Why he doesn't just save his energy, keep his head down, focus on his own survival. He looked at me like I'd asked why the sun comes up. Because, he said, the moment we stop caring for each other is the moment we stop being men. And I refuse to give them that. Them. The guards. The war. The system designed to break us. Doc refuses to break, and watching him refuse makes the rest of us refuse too. There are moments, Tommy. Brief ones. Moments when humanity shines through the cracks. Last week we had a new guard rotate in. Young guy, couldn't have been much older than 25. Most of the guards treat us like animals, worse than animals, but this one was different. He didn't smile or speak to us, but he didn't go out of his way to inflict pain either. One afternoon, I was carrying water buckets back to camp when I stumbled. The buckets spilled, and I fell hard on my knees. I braced myself for the beating. Spilling water is a punishable offense, but this guard just looked at me. For a moment, our eyes met, and I saw something there. Recognition, maybe, like he was seeing a person instead of a prisoner. He walked away. It was a small thing. Insignificant, maybe. But in that moment, it felt like grace. Or the time one of the older prisoners, a guy named Frank who used to be a jazz musician in New Orleans, organized a concert. We didn't have instruments, obviously, but Frank convinced about 20 guys to gather after dark, and he conducted us like an orchestra. We hummed, that's all. Just hummed the melodies of songs from home. Moonlight Serenade, In the Mood. You are my sunshine. The guards heard us, but for some reason they didn't stop it. Maybe they liked the music too. Maybe they were homesick in their own way. I don't know, but for 15 minutes, Tommy, we weren't prisoners. We were men making music. men remembering beauty. Some guys cried, not sad crying, the other kind, the kind that comes when you remember what it feels like to be human. Now let me tell you about yesterday, about the cup of water. His name was Henry, late 50s, which made him ancient by camp standards. Most of the older guys didn't make it past the first few months. The work was too hard, the conditions too brutal. But Henry held on. He'd been a teacher back in Nebraska, American history. He used to tell us stories at night about the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the frontier. He made history come alive in a way that made us remember we were part of something bigger than ourselves. But Henry was failing. We all saw it. His cough had gotten worse, deep rattling coughs that left him gasping. His eyes had that hollow look. He was maybe 90 pounds, all bones and papery skin. Yesterday, during the midday break, we were given our water ration. 1 cup per man, that's all. And it's never enough. Not in this heat, not doing this work. You dream about water, you fantasize about it. A cold glass, a running stream, rain on your face. Henry got his cup and sat down in the shade. But before he could drink, he started coughing. Bad. The kind of coughing fit that doubles you over. His cup tipped and half the water spilled into the dirt. We all saw it. Watched that precious water disappear into the ground. Henry stared at it, at the mud, at his half-empty cup. There was a kid sitting near him, couldn't have been more than 21. Name was James, from Montana. Farm boy, first deployment. He'd been in the camp 3 months and was still adjusting, still fighting to keep his optimism. James looked at his own cup, full, then at Henry's, half empty. And without a word, without hesitation, James poured half his water into Henry's cup. Now, Tommy, you have to understand what that means. That water was James's lifeline, his survival. In the camp economy, water is more valuable than gold. Men have fought over less. Men have died over less. But James poured it out like it was nothing. Henry stared at him. "Son," he said, his voice cracked and raw, "you need that." James shrugged. "So do you, sir. You'll regret it in an hour when the sun gets high." "Maybe," James said, "but I'll regret it more if I don't." They sat there for a moment, 2 men in hell, sharing water. Then Henry did something I didn't expect. He lifted his cup, now 3/4 full, and poured a little back into James's cup. "Compromise," Henry said with a slight smile. James smiled back, and they both drank. Here's the thing, Tommy. That small act, that one moment of kindness, it spread. That evening at dinner, I watched as Marcus gave half his rice to Peter, the kid who'd been crying about his hometown. Peter tried to refuse, but Marcus insisted. "You need your strength," Marcus said. "You're still growing." Then Doc, who never eats enough because he's always giving his food to the sick, accepted a piece of dried fish from another prisoner without arguing. "For your health, Doc," the man said. "Can't have our medic collapsing." It was like watching dominoes fall. One act of kindness triggering another, then another. I found myself doing it too. I'd saved a tiny piece of cloth, a scrap from an old shirt that I'd been planning to use to patch a hole in my boot. But I saw a guy named Carl trying to wrap a cut on his hand, with nothing but leaves. So I gave him the cloth. He looked at me like I'd handed him gold. "I can't take this," he said. "Yes, you can," I told him. "We look out for each other. That's the rule." That night, lying in my bunk, I thought about what Doc had said, about refusing to stop being human, about not letting them break us. And I realized something, Tommy. They can starve us. They can beat us. They can work us until our bodies give out. But they can't make us stop caring about each other. They can't take that away unless we let them. And we weren't letting them. You're probably wondering why I'm writing all this down, why I'm telling you about the darkness and the suffering. It's not to scare you. It's not to make you sad. It's because I need you to understand something important, something I want you to carry with you your whole life. The world can be brutal, Tommy. It can be unfair and cruel. You'll face hardships I can't even imagine, times when everything feels hopeless, when the weight of it all makes you want to give up. But here's what I've learned in this place. What makes us human isn't our strength. It's not how tough we are or how much we can endure alone. What makes us human is how we treat each other when everything else is stripped away. James didn't have to share his water. Marcus doesn't have to comfort the young guys who break down. Doc doesn't have to spend his energy saving others when he can barely save himself. But they do it anyway, because that's what humans do. Real humans. We lift each other up. We share what little we have. We refuse to let the darkness turn us into something we're not. I want you to be like James, Tommy, like Marcus, like Doc. I want you to be the kind of man who pours out his water for someone who needs it more. The kind of man who sits with someone who's crying. The kind of man who fights to keep others human, even when the world tells you to only look out for yourself. That's the man I'm trying to be in here. And that's the man I want to come home as. At night when I can't sleep, which is most nights, I think about home. I think about you. Out here, night doesn't feel like it does back home. There's no quiet hum of a refrigerator, no ticking clock on the wall, no faint traffic from a distant street. Just the wind moving through old boards, the shifting of tired men, and my own heartbeat echoing in my ears. It's a lonely kind of darkness, the kind that presses against your ribs. So I fill it with you. I remember the day you were born. Your mother had been in labor for 14 hours, and I was terrified. Terrified something would go wrong. Terrified I wouldn't be a good father. Terrified of everything, really, because that's what love does. It makes you aware of how much you have to lose. Then the nurse put you in my arms, and you were so small, Tommy. So impossibly small. You fit in the crook of my elbow like you'd always belonged there. Your eyes were closed, your tiny fists clenched tight, and you made this little sound, not quite a cry, just a squeaky breath, like you were testing out the world one note at a time. And in that moment, everything inside me shifted. I thought, this is what I'm here for. This is my purpose. Everything I'd done before, every job, every choice, every failure, it all made sense because it led to you. And everything I'd do after that moment would be for you. I remember teaching you to walk. You'd take 2 determined steps, wobble like a little drunk, then fall on your backside. But you never cried. Not once. You'd grunt, this frustrated little sound, push yourself up with those chubby arms and try again. Your mother said you got that stubbornness from me, but I know the truth. You got it from her. She's the strongest person I've ever known. Strong in ways that don't shout, strong in ways I'm only learning to understand out here. I remember your 3rd birthday, a little party in the backyard with mismatched chairs and balloons tied to the fence. Your mother baked a chocolate cake, your favorite, and you were bouncing around so much she could barely frost it. When we lit the candles, your eyes went wide like you were staring at a treasure chest. You took a huge breath and blew so hard you spit all over the cake. Everyone laughed. You laughed too, a full-bellied giggle, even though you didn't know you were the punchline. I'd give anything to hear that laugh again. Anything. I remember the last morning I saw you. It was still dark. The kind of early where the world feels half asleep. You shuffled out in your pajamas, rubbing your eyes, clutching that stuffed bear missing an ear. You didn't understand where I was going or why. How could you? You were only 5. You thought I was going on another work trip, just another grown-up job thing, the kind you'd ask about and then immediately forget because a toy truck caught your attention. You asked me when I'd be back, and I said, soon, buddy, real soon. I said it because I needed you to feel safe. I said it because I didn't want you to worry. But mostly, I said it because I needed to believe it myself. I hate that I lied to you, that I walked away knowing soon might not be soon at all, that the train I boarded might take me so far from you I couldn't find my way back. But here's the truth I hold on to every single day. I'm going to make it home, Tommy. Not because I'm the strongest, not because I'm the bravest, but because I have something waiting for me that's worth crawling through hell to reach. You, your laugh, your stubbornness, your tiny hand in mine, the life I still want to live beside you. I promise you, I'm fighting my way back to you with everything I have left, every breath, every step, every shred of hope. And if hope is the only weapon I have left in this place, then I'll wield it like a soldier wields a rifle. Because getting home to you is the mission that matters most. You want to know what keeps me alive in this place? It's not hatred for the enemy. It's not even the hope of rescue, though we all cling to that. It's you. Every morning when I wake up, before I even open my eyes, I think about you. I imagine what you're doing. Maybe you're eating breakfast, toast with too much jelly, the way you like it. Maybe you're getting ready for school, dragging your feet because you don't want to put on your shoes. Maybe you're playing in the yard, chasing a ball or poking sticks into the dirt like boys do. I don't know what 6-year-olds do anymore. I've missed a whole year of your life, but I imagine it anyway. I build those moments in my mind like little shelters against the cold. During the work detail, when my body is screaming at me to give up, when every muscle feels like it's tearing, when the heat is so intense I can barely breathe, or when the winter wind cuts through my clothes like knives, I think about teaching you to ride a bike. I picture myself running beside you, one hand on the seat, the other steadying your shoulder. I can hear your nervous laugh, see your legs wobbling as you try to pedal. You'll be scared at first, but then you'll find your balance, and I'll let go, but I won't tell you. You'll keep pedaling, thinking I'm right behind you, and then you'll realize you're doing it on your own. And you'll look back at me with this huge smile, pure, unfiltered pride, and that smile will shine brighter than any sun I've seen in this place. I want to see that smile, Tommy. More than anything, I want to teach you to throw a baseball until your arm gets tired and we switch roles so you can coach me instead. I want to help you with homework, even the parts I've forgotten. I want to embarrass you in front of your friends when you're a teenager. Show up wearing socks with sandals, tell corny jokes, wave too enthusiastically from the car, all the little things dads do on purpose to make their kids groan and laugh at the same time. I want to walk you to your first day of school and pick you up after. I want to stand outside the classroom door, nervous like I'm the one starting school, wondering if you made friends, if you had a good day, if you missed me even a little. I want to tuck you in at night and read you stories until your eyelids get heavy. Stories about pirates, explorers, adventurers, the kind of stories that make the world feel big instead of frightening. I want all the normal, boring, beautiful moments that make up a life. Moments people take for granted because they don't know how precious they are. Moments that don't make it into history books but matter more than anything that does. That's what keeps me breathing. That's what makes me get up every morning. That's what makes me share my water, help my fellow prisoners, refuse to become an animal in a place that tries very hard to turn men into one. Because I'm not just surviving for myself. I'm surviving for you. I'm surviving for the chance to see your face again, for the chance to be your father, not just in name, but in every small, ordinary, wonderful way. For the chance to come home and finally start all the days I've missed. That hope, that love, it's the strongest thing I have left. And as long as I can hold on to that, this place will never break me. I need to tell you something difficult now, Tommy. Something I've been avoiding. There's a chance I don't make it home. I don't say that to be dramatic or to make you sad. I say it because it's true. Men die here every day. Good men, strong men, men who are fighting just as hard as I am to survive. Sometimes it's disease, sometimes it's exhaustion, sometimes it's the cold settling into bones already worn thin. Sometimes it's just bad luck, being in the wrong place when a guard is having a bad day, or when someone panics, or when a decision made far above us trickles down like a hammer on the wrong head. I've made my peace with that possibility. Not because I want to die. I don't. I want to live more than anything. I want to see you grow, hear you laugh, feel your hand in mine. But I've learned that some things are outside my control. What I can control is who I am, how I act, what I stand for. If I don't make it home, I want you to know that your father died as a man, not an animal, not broken, not defeated. A man who shared his water, who comforted others, who refused to let hatred and fear turn him into something less than human. I want you to be proud of that, not proud of a uniform or a rank. Those things don't survive long out here. Proud of the choices I made when everything else was stripped away. But here's what I need you to understand, Tommy. And this is the most important part. If I don't make it home, you still need to live your life. A full life. A happy life. You don't owe it to my memory to be sad forever. You don't need to carry my pain. Pain is a weight meant for the moment, not a lifetime. What you need to do is be kind, be strong, be the kind of man who makes the world better just by being in it. That's how you honor me. Not with grief, but with goodness. That's my legacy. Not the war, not this camp, not suffering. Kindness, humanity, love, that's what I'm leaving you. And Tommy, here's more you need to know. Every man in this place carries the same fear I do, and the same hope. We talk about home quietly, like it's something fragile, something that might shatter if spoken too loudly. Some men make plans for the future as if saying the words out loud ties them to life. Promises of weddings, farms, jobs waiting back home. Others keep their dreams folded up like letters in their pockets, afraid that sharing them might tempt fate to take them away. At night, when the guards are tired and the cold settles in, you can hear the soft murmurs, not prayers, though some of those echo too, but stories. Stories of wives, of sons, of kitchens filled with warm light, of fishing trips, of old dogs sleeping by the fire. Those stories keep us going. They are lifelines in the dark. I've learned that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to keep going despite the fear. It's waking up after a night of shaking hands and pounding heart and still standing in line at roll call. Still helping the man next to you. Still believing, even faintly, in tomorrow. And if my time here ends before I get back to you, I want you to know I didn't quit. I didn't surrender to despair. I didn't let this place hollow me out. I kept standing, even when standing felt impossible. Remember that, son. Remember that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, "Try again tomorrow." Sometimes it's a breath, not a battle cry. Sometimes it's the choice to hold on to one last piece of hope when everything around you insists you should let go. And if you ever find yourself in your own dark place someday, not a battlefield, but the kind life throws at all of us, I want you to remember that whisper. Hold it close, because sometimes a whisper is enough to carry you through the night. Something changed last night, Tommy. Something in the air. The guards have been different, nervous. They're talking in quick, hushed tones, looking at the sky more often, listening for something. Some of the guys think it means the war is ending, that our side is winning. There are rumors, always rumors, that American forces are getting closer. That rescue is coming. I don't know if it's true. I've learned not to trust rumors. Hope is dangerous here. It can lift you up just to drop you harder. But I felt it too. Something's different. This morning, during roll call, one of the senior guards wasn't there. That never happens. The routine is always the same. But today, it wasn't. And at lunch, they gave us extra rice. Not much, just a few more spoonfuls, but enough to notice. Doc thinks they're preparing for an inspection. Maybe the Red Cross is coming. Maybe higher-ups in the command chain. Marcus thinks differently. He thinks they're getting ready to evacuate, to move us somewhere else before our forces arrive. I don't know what to believe. But for the first time in months, I feel something I'd almost forgotten. Hope. Real hope. Not the desperate clawing kind that makes you irrational, but the quiet kind. The kind that says, maybe, just maybe. And the shift keeps growing. Even the prisoners feel it. Conversations that used to be whispered in the dark now rise just a little louder. Even laughter, thin, brittle, but real, has started to sprinkle through the barracks like a sound from another life. When I looked at the sky today, I swear it looked different too. Clearer somehow. Like the world outside the fence is moving, changing, reaching toward us. We've lived in a place where nothing changes. Same meals, same punishments, same misery. But now there's movement, attention, and expectation. Some of the older men say they've felt this before, in other wars, in other camps, this stillness before something breaks. They can't say whether it's good or bad, but they agree on one thing: something is coming. And Tommy, for the first time in a long time, I want to believe it might be something good. Last night, I had a dream about you. We were in our backyard, summer evening. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. You were older in the dream, maybe 10 or 11, and we were playing catch. You had a baseball glove that was too big for your hand, but you were using it anyway, determined. I'd throw the ball gentle, underhand, and you'd catch it, most of the time. Sometimes it bounced off the glove and you'd chase after it, laughing. Your mother was on the porch, watching us. She had a glass of lemonade and one of those smiles she gets when she's content, when everything in her world is exactly as it should be. And in the dream, I was healthy. Not the skeleton I am now, but solid, strong, the way I used to be. I remember thinking, in the dream, this is all I ever wanted, this moment, this peace. Then you threw the ball back to me, a wild throw that went over my head, and you yelled, "Sorry, Dad," and laughed. And I laughed too. When I woke up, I was still smiling. For just a second, before reality crashed back in, I felt pure joy. The guy in the bunk next to me asked why I was smiling. I told him about the dream. He got quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Hold on to that. Whatever it takes. Hold on to that." So I am, Tommy. I'm holding on to our backyard, our game of catch, your mother's smile, that orange and pink sky. I'm holding on to the future I'm going to have with you. And the dream has stayed with me all day. Not like a fading memory, but like a lantern I can carry in a dark hallway. Every man here has something he holds on to. A smell, a face, a place. For me, it's you and your mother. Sunlight, laughter, a porch, a baseball glove too big for your hand. When the hunger gnaws at me, when the cold wakes me in the night, when I hear someone crying quietly into their blanket, I go back to that backyard. I picture you running after the ball. I picture her smile. I picture myself whole. Dreams are dangerous here. They can make reality hurt more, but they're also the only thing keeping some of us alive. And Tommy, that dream reminded me of something I'd almost forgotten. I'm not living for survival alone. I'm living to return to that world. Your world. When I get home, and I will get home, I'm going to sit down with you. Maybe when you're older, maybe when you're a teenager and starting to understand the world's complexity. Because some truths can't be told to a child. Some truths need a little bit of growing before they can be carried without breaking. And I'm going to tell you about this place, not to burden you, but so you understand. So you know that your father lived through darkness and still kept a flame alive. I'll tell you about Henry and James and the cup of water. How something so small, just a cup, can show more courage than a battlefield. Henry, shaking from fatigue, offering James the last sip he had, knowing he himself might go thirsty. And James, swallowing the water slowly, tasting not just relief but the sheer humanity of a gesture that could have been forgotten in the chaos. I'll tell you about Marcus holding Peter while he cried, whispering nonsense to keep the fear at bay. Because even soldiers, even men trained to be steel, need a place to crumble sometimes. Because holding someone doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. I'll tell you about Doc saving lives with nothing but will and improvisation. How he created splints from scrap wood, bandages from torn shirts, and hope from thin air. How he moved through the smoke and mud with a calm you couldn't fake, and the look in his eyes said, "This life matters, every single one." I'll tell you about the men who chose to stay human when it would have been easier to become monsters, because war doesn't forge character, it reveals it. It strips away the small comforts, the routines, the little lies we tell ourselves, until all that remains is choice. And choice is terrifying. Because that's the real story of this war, Tommy. Not the battles, not the tactics, not the politics, not the maps drawn in rooms far from the smell of blood. The real story is what men choose to be when everything is stripped away, when hunger gnaws your ribs, when fear sits permanently between your shoulder blades, when every sunrise feels like borrowed time, when the mud smells of death and the sky is too heavy to lift. Some men chose cruelty, some chose indifference, some gave up entirely. You'll meet those kinds of men in life too, even far from any battlefield. But some, many more than you'd think, chose kindness, chose compassion, chose to lift others up even when they could barely stand themselves. They shared the last bite of bread. They offered a hand in the freezing night. They whispered, "You are not alone," even when they were trembling too. Those are the heroes no history book writes about. Those are the stories worth telling, the ones you will carry into your own life, whether you realize it or not. Those are the stories that will shape what kind of man you become. Not medals, not victories, not uniforms. I want you to know that humanity isn't something we have when times are good. It's what we fight for when times are bad. When holding on to your soul feels harder than holding a rifle. When silence falls over a town and you realize the world can be both beautiful and cruel in the same breath. And we can always choose it. Always. No matter how dark it gets, even in places like this, even when it feels like all hope has been buried in the dirt, even when we are tired and scared and the weight of the world sits heavy on our shoulders. Because there will always be a hand reaching out, a cup of water, a whispered word, a moment of courage in the smallest gestures, and it is in those moments, Tommy, that we are truly alive. I'm making you a promise right now, Tommy, a sacred one, a promise forged in mud and sweat and fear, but stronger than any oath I swore to the army. I promise that when I get home, I'm going to be present, fully present. Not a ghost sitting at the dinner table, not a shadow drifting through the hallways, a father, the father you deserve. I'm not going to let this war follow me through our front door. I'm not going to let it steal any more time with you than it already has. Pain is allowed to visit, but I won't let it unpack its bags. I'm going to wake up early and make you pancakes. Probably burnt ones at first, but I'll learn. I'll get the batter all over the counter and we'll laugh while cleaning it up. And someday, you'll tell me mine taste better than the diners down the street, even if you're just saying it to be kind. I'm going to walk you to school and pick you up after. Not just stand at the gate, really show up. Listen, care. Ask how your day was and wait for the real answer, not the quick fine kids give when they don't think anyone is really listening. I'm going to help with homework, even the math problems I don't understand. We'll figure them out together, even if it takes all night. We'll argue about fractions, laugh about the mistakes, and celebrate the little victories like they're grand achievements. I'm going to play with you, really play. Get down on the floor with your toy soldiers, build forts out of couch cushions, have water balloon fights in summer that soak the whole street. We'll spend entire evenings building racetracks only for them to collapse. And then we'll build them again. Because time with you won't be something I fit in. It will be the center of everything. I'm going to read to you every night. We'll work our way through every adventure story we can find. Treasure Island, Robinson Crusoe, Tom Sawyer, all of them. And when we finish those, we'll make up our own stories. Ones with monsters and heroes and faraway places where the good guys always win in the end. I want your imagination to be bigger than any war. I'm going to teach you everything I know. How to throw a punch only for self-defense. How to change a tire. How to treat people with respect. How to stand your ground without losing your kindness. How to be brave when you're scared. Not because bravery is the absence of fear, but because courage is choosing to move forward despite it. I'm going to tell you I love you every single day, multiple times a day, until you're so sick of hearing it that you roll your eyes, and when you do, I'll smile and say it again. And even then, I'll keep saying it, because you deserve a world overflowing with love, not rationed like wartime bread. Because I've learned something in this place, Tommy. Time isn't guaranteed. Tomorrow isn't promised. The people we love can be taken from us in an instant. A single moment can change a life forever. I've seen men write letters they never got to send. I've held hands that grew cold before sunrise. I've watched boys become memories in the span of a heartbeat. So we have to love loudly. Love, obviously. Love without restraint. Love like it's the only thing that keeps us human. That's what I'm gonna do. That's my promise to you. A promise I will carry through fire and fear, and every mile between us, until I'm home, until I'm holding you, until every broken piece of me remembers how to be whole again. I don't know when I'll be able to send this letter. Mail from the camp is complicated, censored, unreliable. Sometimes letters vanish. Sometimes they arrive months too late. Sometimes they arrive exactly when they're needed. There's a chance you'll never read these words. But I needed to write them anyway, because writing them is the closest I can get to holding you. For me, yes, but also for you. Because someday, somehow, I want you to understand what your father went through. Not the suffering, that's not the important part, but the choice. The decision to stay human, to stay kind, to stay hopeful, even when hope felt like a luxury, even here, even now. The sun is starting to rise. It paints the camp in pale gold, turning the barbed wire almost gentle for a moment. I can hear the guards stirring, boots on gravel. Soon they'll bang that metal pan and another day will begin. Another day of work and heat and hunger, but also another day of humanity. Another day of men choosing to care for each other. Another day of refusing to break. Another day closer to home. Tommy, I love you more than words can express, more than the stars in the sky, more than all the water in the ocean. If love were a map, mine would circle the globe twice and still point to you. You are my reason, my purpose, my hope, and I'm coming home to you. I don't know when, I don't know how, but I swear on everything I am, on everything I've ever been, on everything I'll ever be. I'm coming home. Wait for me. Stay strong, be kind, and know that every single day, even when I couldn't write, even when I couldn't send a letter, I was thinking of you, always, with all my love, your father.